So, we're in the middle of 2021 and there is a lot going on, at least in technology, as we have come so far ahead. So many countries, companies, accidents, and failures have actually brought us to where we are in terms of our technological advancements today. And among all of this, there is something common in most of what's happening today. Something that also creates and also deteriorates, something that contributes as well as leads to the controversies. China. China innovates as well as copies, creates and deteriorates, fails and succeeds. But most of all, China is kind of like the mess that technology is dealing with today. And we're not here for that. We are here to talk about something really different. So, how many smartphone giants do you know from China? Well, there are the three main ones, starting off with Huawei. Huawei was a storming company and it had a wide reach all around the world. And it was often referred to as the Chinese Apple thanks to its inspiration taking from Apple and also its ideology to build an ecosystem just like Apple but for Android, like just what Samsung does today. But the reason that I'm saying was here is because Huawei has massively shrunken since its US ban of 2019 and therefore it had to do a lot to incur all of those losses. Like it had to sell Honor in 2020 and it had to even cut ties with TSMC. Add to that the semiconductor shortage of 2020, therefore tearing apart its current chipset business. Also, another thing to note was that it was ripped out of many 5G plans and infrastructures of many other countries due to having trust issues as well. And the final nail in the coffin was that it was denied of GMS or Google Mobile Services, therefore it couldn't have access to Android and it was pushed to create its own called Harmony OS, which is actually based on Android but far inferior considering that iOS and Android have already been in the game for more than a decade. While Huawei was shrinking in size, another company was storming ahead from the same China, and that was none other than Xiaomi. Xiaomi started off in 2010 as a company with only just 10 people and its first ever product was actually MIUI. But over time, they started selling smartphones as well, and with just 20,000 full-time employees today, they have captivated the half of Europe's market thanks to its phones having incredible value. But there's another thing as well, as Xiaomi actually takes Huawei's ideology of getting inspired by Apple and doubling down on that with, I don't know, everything from their stores to even their phones, everything built just like Apple products. But these are not the spotlight of today's video. Today's video is something special, something that is even bigger than Huawei or Xiaomi. What? And that is BBK Electronics. Okay, wait, what? Who is this BBK? And how can he have sold more smartphones than Xiaomi and Huawei if I clearly don't remember a brand called BBK smartphones? Well, glad you asked. But wait, what other companies do you know from China? Let's go from small to big, alright? How about, a company called iQOO? Maybe? Okay, we can do bigger than that. How about Realme? Do you know Realme? Okay, Realme is a fairly big company. What do you say with Realme? We say something bigger than that. OnePlus. So OnePlus, if OnePlus is in the game, obviously there's another company in here. Oppo. So Oppo is there. What else do you know? Vivo. So there are 5 companies for now, as we take. So how many of these companies do you think are actually fully owned by BBK? 1, 2, 4? Well, I can say you are wrong, and all of these companies are owned fully by BBK. And this is the spotlight of today's video. Who, what, and how was BBK created? So it was in the mid-90s that billionaire Yuan Yongping successfully generated over a billion yuan from the very successful budget-friendly small gaming console. Now, take into context that this was a direct competitor with the Nintendo NES back in China. So, what did he do with all that money? Well, he simply just came out of the gaming company and started his new company called Bugao Electronics, which eventually became BBK as known today. So, what did BBK actually make? So, BBK manufactured a lot of CD players, DVD players, MP3 players, and released them under various different brands. But by 1999, the market was dominated by foreign companies like Sony, and BBK had to take a change in the company just so that they can survive. So BBK actually started splitting themselves into various departments. So the first department was actually for educational electronics, and this sector was also known as the EEBBK sector, and it still actually makes educational electronics or educational equipment for sale, like for example it's smartwatches and tablets, and these are still in sale and BBK still sells them in China. And there was also the audiovisual equipment sector, which also sold CD players, DVD players, and MP3 players, and it was under the banner called Oppo Digital. Now, bear in mind that Oppo Digital was actually founded in 2004 as the foundation of Oppo as we know today, and it was headed by Tony Chen, who was a BBK exec at the time, and it was pretty successful. So then, like the major sub-brand of the BBK arose when BBK made its communication sector, and that was named as Vivo. And as you might know, it till date exists, and it was led by Shen Wei, who was a veteran exec of BBK. Now, take into mind that all of this was happening around like the 2000 to 2010 period. So for smartphones were just coming out at the time. So Oppo's first smartphone was the Oppo smartphone, and Vivo's first smartphone was the Vivo V1 music smartphone. So all of these, you have to take a note that Vivo announced its first smartphone and released it around 2011 or 2012, while Oppo's first phone, the smartphone, came out in 2008, and both of them were very successful, considering that both of them had really good speakers, a very experimental and sleek design, which still remains one of the key factors of considering an Oppo or Vivo phone, and something that Chinese phone manufacturers till date keep doubling down on, the AI beauty camera. And this was one big selling point for both the companies to have a huge hit among both of their phones. Now, taking in mind that this is around 2011 and their major both sub-brands of BBK are just Oppo and Vivo. So Oppo Real was actually founded back in 2010 as a sub-brand to Oppo, which also laid the foundation stones of Oppo Real, which is Realme. So what happened there was that Sky Lee, a Oppo exec, actually took over the company in 2018 and separated Realme from Oppo, just like how Poco is separated from Xiaomi. And when we're talking about all of the creations of these sub-brands, we can definitely not forget about OnePlus. So OnePlus was founded in 2013 by Carl Kai and Oppo's ex-vice president Pete Lau. And also there was the foundation of iQOO, which was also founded back in 2019 as a sub-brand to Vivo. But now, you'll be having a question. Why does BBK need so many brands? You see, the smartphone market was changing in 2007 after the debut of the original iPhone, and it showed what people were missing out, and it was a big revolution. It was more of like function over form, and people had to adopt to this one small standard, and people could take different approaches to it, and that led to the competitiveness of iOS versus Android and how people approach towards that standard of a small scale touch-based computer in your pocket. So if you see, while some people can actually shell out over $1,000 for a smartphone, the majority's average is around 200, and therefore BBK wanted to take over all of these segments, and therefore with that intention they created all of these brands. And all of these brands actually specialize on something, like for example like luxury, enthusiast based, and then like the budget tier, mid-range segment, and then the very popular and very busy segment of the higher mid-range, and then there were the like $1,000 premium flagship, and then the ultra high-end flagships around $1,400 and all of that. So Oppo and Vivo, they both specialize on being mainstream phone manufacturers with premium designs, cameras, very distinguishable like brand designs. While if you see, OnePlus is more focused towards like the North American market with like bloatware-free Oxygen OS, and at least it used to have like less prices, and it's all about like the more aggressive marketing. And if you just turn your heads around to brands like iQOO and Realme, they offer a lot in the budget segment, and iQOO mainly specializes on value for the budget segment. But why does BBK not want to be shown of like being like the big banner of all of these companies? Well, there are many reasons for this. Number one, that BBK and Duan himself did not want these companies to be thought as one big company, and therefore like it can lead to a lot of confusion. BBK and Duan himself did not want the outer world to think that these companies were interrelated for various reasons, like why certain companies act in a certain way, and this was actually like because of BBK taking a step rather than each company taking a step for their own benefit. And there was also this other factor of that if BBK exposed itself to the outside world as being one giant umbrella for all of these companies, it would actually have a heavy effect on the reputation of each of these companies, and therefore have a heavy hit on sales as well as the image of the brand itself. And Duan didn't want to risk it hard, and therefore he didn't want the outer world to know it. And an example of this is shown with OnePlus's behavior towards Oppo, as from the start, both of the designs of the OnePlus and the Oppo devices have been quite similar, or more likely inspired, and also the fact that now OnePlus is actually moving closer towards Oppo with the removal of a lot of teams and actually merging into Oppo itself. So to conclude, BBK is this big giant, and it has taken over so much that we actually have to look back and realize that it has taken so much, and therefore like you should come to know something that there is a lot of things going behind that you don't know, and you can be quick to judge things like that. But let me ask you something. If you own BBK and you own all of these companies, how would you actually run BBK as a company towards success? Let me know in the comments, and thank you guys for watching this video. And if you like this video, do subscribe, comment, and like this video. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Until then,